March was actually a pretty good reading month for me. I only had one DNF and one dud, and so let's just talk about the books I read in March. I read slash listened to a couple of audiobooks, so let's start with those. I finished up Queen Charlotte at the beginning of March, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm trying to read all of the Bridgerton books this year. I've only gotten to Queen Charlotte, but I am going to continue. And I would say that it's basically following the TV show. It's a good listen. I really loved the narrator, and yeah, if you were into Bridgerton, then I would say, yeah, read it. And the other audiobook I read was Ina Garten's memoir, which is Be Ready When the Luck Happens. And I mean, Ina Garten is an icon. And in my like high school years, in my early 20s, her shows were on my screen. So it was only natural to listen to her book. And I really enjoyed listening to her story. I mean, she did grow up in a very tough household. Her parents were really strict on her and demanding of her, but she, I mean, built a business out of it. And even though that Ina and I have very different personalities and very different outlooks on life, I did learn a lot. So I highly, highly, highly recommend listening to it. I mean, I always love listening to a memoir that is read by the author of the memoir, and she reads it, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. Now let's talk about the DNF. I don't know if you remember in my March mood reads, I said I was going to read a lot of stuff from my Kindle, and the one book that I was going to read was The Beautiful and Damned. Now, this was a DNF, and I don't know if it will be a soft DNF for me or if it will be a full DNF for me, but right now I'm leaning more towards soft DNF. This was my fault. I didn't read, like the little blurb that tells you about what the book is about, the synopsis, and I was confused right from the beginning. And I felt like I was back in school reading Beautiful and the Damned or any book, really. And I decided, you know what? I'm not feeling it right now, so we will DNF. And I guess the only reason I decided to pick it up is because of a certain character from a certain show called Gossip Girl. If you know, you know. And yeah, so next time I will go into it reading the synopsis. Now for the dud. I really hate that I have to talk about, books that I didn't get on with, but this one was just not for me. I don't want you to be deterred by not reading this. I think it's important to hear everybody's opinion. Remember, my opinion. Do not come after me for it, because we're all entitled to them. The book I'm talking about is called Bent Right to Your Win by Esther Valors. I was kindly sent a eARC of it, and I just didn't get on with it. It was clunky. There was a lot going on. It's a dual timeline, and it's also a dual POV. The dual POV didn't upset me and didn't take away from my reading. It was just, and neither did the dual timeline really. It was more that there were so many tropes in it and so much going on that, like, I think it just needed to be pared down some. This is Esther's first book and like her debut novel, and apparently it's going to be part of a series, but I just didn't like it. What I did like about it is the love story. It's a friends to lovers love story, and well, friends to academic rivals to lovers. I do want to warn you, there are lots of heavy topics talked about in this book and covered in this book, so check your trigger warnings. if you do decide to read this, but yeah. Like I said, I hate having to say like bad things about a book, but there you go. Those are my opinions and those are my thoughts on that book. Now for my two most favorite books I read. Let's start with Outlander. Yes, I am still very much obsessed with Outlander. And I decided after watching the show that I wanted to read the books, and I started with Outlander. Now, this is a very long book, and I really, really enjoyed it. I didn't think I went into it hesitantly because after watching the show and then reading the books, I thought, oh, this is going to ruin my reading experience. Turns out it did not, because there's enough difference between what happens in the books and what happens in the show that you just kind of forget, you separate the two, which I typically like to do anyways. I really, really enjoyed reading it, except it was kind of hard to read because I can't read Gaelic, and there's a lot of Gaelic and Scottish dialogue in this. So I suggest either having Google Translate next to you or picking up the audiobook along with reading along in a physical copy or whatever. Now for my, yeah, this is my only 5-star of the month, is Spark of the Everflame by Penn. Oh my god, I just finished this a couple days ago of time of filming this, and oh my god, it had me hooked right from the beginning. And if you are a fantasy girly / romantasy girly, this is like right up your street. And this is the reason I love this genre and why I always go back to it. There wasn't a whole lot of world building, which is great, and there aren't a whole lot of characters you need to follow. Now, I don't know about, this is a series, so I don't know about later on in the other books, but I finished reading and I was like, I immediately need to read the rest of the books. And I know there's a 4th one coming. It's not out yet, I don't believe. But I just loved this story. And DM is like your FMC, and there is a bit of, I would say this is fantasy leaning romantasy. So there's a little bit of like romance in it. Yeah, I just really, really enjoyed my reading of that book. Now, I did start a book, and that book is The Signs by Carolyn Faulkner. It's a nonfiction. It'll help you read your astrological chart. And this has been on my bookshelf for 3 or 4 years, and I was like, you know what, it's time to finally pick this up, because yes, I am that girl. I like reading about my signs and all that stuff and my astrology stuff. Do I take it with a grain of salt? Of course I do, because it's interpretation, and that's kind of part of that. Now, I've only gotten so far in it. I'm just picking it up here and there when I want to read it. And so once I'm done with it, you will find out what I thought of it. But yes, so that was my March reading wrap up. And I'd love to know what your favorite book of March was. Leave those in the comments.